The Los Angeles Chargers are bolting up. What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL free agency reaction. Khalil Mack to the Los Angeles Chargers. The edge extraordinaire, pass rusher, beast, animal, Khalil Mack is a LA Charger. And he is teaming up with Joey Bosa in what could be one of the best edge duos in the NFL that we have ever seen. We knew that the Chargers, with plenty of cap space, were going to make some noise this offseason and rework their defensive line and their defense. But man, this is a huge move. The AFC West has been wild already. Before I break down this trade, the Chargers trading for Khalil Mack of the Chicago Bears. Make sure that you do Gronk. Spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more BLV just like this. And Gronk, spike that notification bell for the latest upload and reaction just like this. Also, get in that comment section and let me know what you think of this huge move by the Chargers. Is this exactly the move that the Chargers needed to put their defense over the top? Khalil Mack of the Bears to the Chargers to team up with Joey Bosa. Let me know in the comment section below. Or are you still not believing in the Chargers this season? Do they need to do more to prove to you that they could take the next step with Justin Herbert? But I am really happy about this move. Extremely happy about this move. We've got Khalil Mack to the Chargers, and I've been saying all offseason that the Chargers are going to be that team to watch in the AFC because they have a ton of cap space, and they know they have a quarterback that they can go all in with. And the Chargers are wasting no time. They are going all in with Justin Herbert for 2022 and beyond. They needed to upgrade their defense. They needed to get better on the defensive line, and they do that with this trade. Now, the compensation for the trade, we have, according to Ian Rappaport, the Chargers sending a second-round pick and a sixth-round pick in 2023 for Khalil Mack, which he says is massive. Now, I would like to just say that the second rounder is in 2022. Ian actually did go back and say that. Also, Khalil Mack, his contract will fully be taken on by the Los Angeles Chargers. So those are a little bit of details to add on to Ian's tweet. But the move has been made, and it will be made once the season begins. Khalil Mack to the Chargers, second and a sixth round pick. I love this move for the Chargers. I adore this move for the Chargers. So let's start off why this happened. First, Chargers have a lot of cap space. They were in the top 5 to begin free agency with the amount of cap space that they had. Last year, their defense needed work. Brandon Staley's a defensive coach, defensive mind. He got the job for the Chargers based on his performance with the Rams and Aaron Donald and company, Leonard Floyd up front, Jalen Ramsey in the back end. And it looks like Brandon Staley is shaping up a defense not really in the image of the Rams, but a defense that's a lot closer to what he loves. Brandon Staley is from Chicago, the Bears, right? He worked under Vic Fangio. That's kind of where he gained his defensive philosophy and style. You know, playing a lot of his quarters coverages and 2 safety shells and cover 6s. And that's where Brandon Staley grew as a defensive mind, because this guy was actually an offensive guy before he was a defensive guy. He was a quarterback earlier in his career. So that's what I loved about the hire of Brandon Staley with the Chargers to begin with. He's a guy that understands the quarterback play, but kind of made his name on the defensive side of the football. But as we know with all defensive minds, they need players to be able to operate their defensive style. And the Chargers were a team that were long a Seattle scheme defense. And those type of players didn't really fit the format of what Brandon Staley's looking for on the defensive side of the football. Right, so they were successful last year. They improved last year as a football team. Justin Herbert continues to shine as one of the top quarterbacks and young quarterbacks in the NFL, but they didn't quite make the playoffs. A little bit disappointingly didn't make the playoffs. A lot of that had to do with their defense, specifically up front in their run defense. And while Khalil Mack is known to be a pass rusher, as he is one of the top edge rushers in the NFL and has been for the last decade, he's also a menace of a edge setter. So you have Khalil Mack on one side, Joey Bosa on the other. They've got to work on the inside, the interior of their defensive line. Who will they bring in? There's another Bear out there, Akeem Hicks, that I think would be a great fit. There's guys in the draft that they could potentially add. There's guys like Sebastian Joseph Day from the Rams that could also help out in that regard. But Brandon Staley needs a front four that can operate both as a pass rush, but also as a run defense. Because of the amount that he loves to play two safeties deep, that takes one guy out of that run defense. So having an elite front four that can handle the run game is just as important as a front four that can get to the quarterback. But the Chargers take that next step of getting an elite defense to pair with Justin Herbert. They retain Mike Williams to pair with Keenan Allen. I'm sure they're not done there. They might add another receiver. They might add a tight end to the offensive side of the football. We'll see what they do at right tackle and the offensive line. But overall, Khalil Mack is a difference maker. Don't believe the people that say he's fallen off. He's still a good player. Am I saying he's the elite defensive player of the year that he was once upon a time? Probably not. Last year he was hurt. He really didn't get to play very much. He only played about 315 snaps according to Pro Football Focus. And in that time, he was graded 29th best edge rusher in the NFL. But previous to last season, he was a dominant force that was a consistent Pro Bowler, a consistent All-Pro, and a guy that every year graded at the top of his position, at least in the elite of the elite, in the top 5 category. He's a guy that stats don't always indicate how impactful he is, because a lot of times he draws double teams, a lot of times he just messes a play up and creates pressure for other players and helps other players cause havoc. Right, so this is going to do so much for Joey Bosa, as Joey Bosa oftentimes is the guy that takes all the attention. Well, now you're going to have to pick and choose. Mack and Bosa can't both be doubled on both sides of the line. That's going to be very difficult. If you add an interior pass rusher to that mix, it's going to become even more difficult. So overall, the Chargers now have 2 edge forces that can do a little bit of everything, and it's going to really help Joey Bosa just pick up more and more pressure and sacks. And Khalil Mack's always been a guy that creates more pressure than he really does sacks. But when you take a look at what he's done throughout his career and statistically, right, last season, he only played 7 games as I suggested. But before that, he had 6 sacks in those 7 games, by the way. So it wasn't too shabby. He was actually on better pace in sacks that year than he was in the previous couple of years. But you look at his previous seasons, and outside of 2014, he was a Pro Bowler in every season from 2015 through 2020 with the Bears. He had 9 sacks in 2020, 8.5 in 2019, was an All-Pro in 2017, the first year with Chicago, 12.5 sacks, and Defensive Player of the Year multiple times in 2017 and 2018 and 2016, sorry. So, overall, you've got a beast on your hands. There's no question about it. I mean, the guy's still an absolute animal. He's only 30 years old or maybe 31 years old. So, he's still in his prime. I wouldn't consider him to be out of his prime. I think he's got a couple more years to go, considering he was still putting up some really nice sack numbers last year. As long as he can stay healthy, I think having Joey Bosa on the opposite side is only going to help a guy like Khalil Mack, because when you really look at it, he's never really had that in his career. With the Raiders, he never really had that, at least that I can recall. And with Chicago, Robert Quinn's okay, but nobody that was purely disruptive and just a guy on Joey Bosa's level, right? Just think of what happened to Von Miller when he went to the Rams to team up with Aaron Donald. It rejuvenated him. It motivated him. It made him a better player, at the end of his career. And Khalil Mack's not even really near that stage of his career, right? He's still kind of in his young 30s. So this is a awesome move. To get Khalil Mack for less than a first-round pick is a steal, in my opinion. Looking at his contract, you have a player that's going to be making $17 million this season, made $14, I believe, a year ago in terms of his cap hit, and then the next couple of years, $22 and $23 million. So it's manageable for sure. You're taking on all of his contract. The Chargers have all of this cap space to work with. They could potentially add a J.C. Jackson or a big name corner, a Darius Williams maybe, if Brandon Staley wants to stick with the familiarity. He could add him, but you could add another corner to this group. You could add a ton of things to this defense. I'd like to see them add a big interior pass rusher or interior force that can stop the run, or maybe some depth at that position just in general. But I see an absolutely game-changing move with Khalil Mack to the Chargers. This is going to put so much more pressure on the other contenders in the NFL, in the AFC specifically. When you look at Josh Allen and the Bills, when you look at Mahomes and the Chiefs, these are teams that want to pass first. These are not teams that are going to sit there and want to run the ball 20 times. And when you have Mack and you have Bosa, it's going to be consistent pressure, and you're not going to have to send these crazy blitzes and these crazy different schemes. It's just going to be get to the quarterback, pin your ears back, and cause havoc. And that can win you games in this league, especially around playoff time. Just look at how the Bucs were able to dominate the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Look at how the Rams were able to win the Super Bowl this year, causing havoc up front. It's the pass rush, the four-man rush that can take over a game that a lot of times is the difference in this day and age in the NFL, because you don't have to do anything crazy and you can put more resources towards coverage to cover all these elite receivers without having to play a ton of man-to-man. You afford yourself the ability to double-team receivers. And I don't think the Chargers have an elite corner at this moment in time, but if they were able to land one, this defense would take a insane jump. Already what they have on their team is 2 dynamic pass rushers, some solid athletic linebacking play, Derwin James, who's a difference-making hybrid mismatch almost of a safety who's kind of like this do-it-all player, and then you have Asante Samuel, who could be an ascending corner. Michael Davis isn't bad, but I'd like to see them add a number 1 corner. And then you look for the Bears. A lot of this is going to be made about the Charger impact, and of course it should be a 2nd and a 6th round pick. You get a 2nd this year, you get a 6th in the future. And I think what the Bears just admitted to me, is that this team's a long ways away. This team is going to be more than a couple moves away from being a contender, from being where they want to be, from being the team that they want to be with Justin Fields. And that's okay. I think if you're a Bears fan, you should look at this and say, we had Khalil Mack for a few years, and it didn't really work out the way that we wanted. I wouldn't say that you lost the trade, though, with the Raiders. I wouldn't say that. For the Raiders, it continues to torment you. It's just ridiculous how this guy continues to be a nightmare for the Raiders organization. Now he's back in your division, and he's going to have to face you multiple times a year, and he's going to be pissed off every time he plays you. But for the Bears, I think you use these picks to help Justin Fields and build an offensive line, build a receiving core, build an offense that can get the best out of Justin Fields, and you work from there. I think this move's more about, even more so than the picks, it's more about money. It's more about creating cap space. It's more about allowing the front office now, this new front office of the Bears, to fix this team and to re-image this team and reimagine this team in the way that they want to. So they need the money to be able to do that, right? And they need the resources to be able to do that. And Khalil Mack, as a player that's going to be 31 this year, you're probably better off as not a true contender at this moment to move on from him and reimagine this team for the future. And I think that makes sense. So overall, it kind of makes sense for both sides. If you're a Bears fan, you would have liked to have gotten more out of Khalil Mack in terms of a package of a trade. But you have to figure that this is a lot to do with his age, and it's a lot to do with recent injuries, obviously from this past season, but more so about the money. Because the big deal here is that the Chargers took all of the money that Khalil Mack, you were going to have to pay Khalil Mack. Right? So that's a big deal. So understand that if you're a Bears fan, this deal's more about the money. And it's more about your new front office being able to build a team and craft a team that is going to be successful in the future. And my guess is Chicago's really looking at the Aaron Rodgers window because they're figuring, okay, Aaron Rodgers is going to be here another couple years. We're probably not going to be as good as them. But when Aaron Rodgers retires, we're going to be that team in the NFC North, and that's what they're building towards. The Chargers, on the other hand, are at the different side of the window. They see they have Justin Herbert. They have all this cap space. They have these resources. They have a few major needs. One of them was another pass rusher. Go out, get Khalil Mack, who's still in his prime, get him for the next 2 to 3 years to try to win that Super Bowl right now, and we'll pay what we got to pay. We'll move picks if we got to move picks. We need to try to win this right now when Justin Herbert is at his cheapest, because that's how you win Super Bowls in this league. I don't care what the division looks like. And we understand that in the AFC, we need pass rushers. We need guys that can disrupt. We need guys that can make plays. We need guys that can sack the quarterback. And that is essential to winning in this day and age. So those are my thoughts on this trade. I love it for the Chargers specifically. I think it's a game-changing move. I love the Chargers entering this year. I love where they're at, and I'm really anticipating a massive offseason for them to enter the contender conversation, which if they weren't already in that conversation, they are definitely now. And with the Chicago Bears, I think it's a savvy move. I think it's thinking ahead. I think it's understanding the landscape of the NFC, understanding the landscape of the league, understanding your roster and what needs to get done, and understanding that this isn't a 1 or 2 move team that you're away from making a contender. You're more than a few moves away. And understanding that this is going to take time, and this is going to take patience, and this is going to take money and resources. So the Bears, I think, made a savvy move. The Chargers made a game-changing move. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of it. I think it's awesome, and I am loving these trades in the NFL. Don't forget to Gronk spike that like button and comment your opinion below. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch. Peace.